Nvidia recently refreshed the RTX 2070 with the RTX 2070 Super, and MSI have sent over their new Gaming X version for me to check out. So let's see what it can do in this review. We'll look at gaming at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K, as well as thermals, fan noise, power draw, overclocking, and more. Like many other recent MSI cards, it's got a dark grey and black theme. Nice neutral colours that should blend in well with most builds. There are two fans on the front, a metal backplate with a nice brushed finish and MSI logo on the back, 6 and 8 pin power connectors on the top, as well as SLI connector if you want to run two together. There's RGB lighting on the top and bottom of the card, and this can be controlled using MSI's LightSync software to change the effects or match it with the rest of the system. For the I/O, we've got 3 DisplayPort 1.4 outputs and single HDMI 2.0B port. The card is on the larger side compared to others I've tested, just under 30cm in length, 14cm tall, and 5.6cm wide, making it a 2.5 slot card weighing in at 1.4 kilos or 3.1 pounds. As a result, I did notice some sag with it installed in my case. It wasn't too bad, but it does come with a mounting bracket to help reduce this. As for the specs, the RTX 2070 Super has 11% more CUDA cores than the original RTX 2070 that it's replacing. The new Super version also has higher base and boost clock speeds, and MSI's Gaming X is listed with just a 30MHz higher boost clock over Nvidia's reference spec. Memory is otherwise still the same, it's still got 8GB of GDDR6 at the same speeds. The system that I'm testing with has an Intel i7-8700K CPU overclocked to 5.1 GHz on all cores and an MSI Z390 Ace motherboard, along with 16GB of DDR4 3200 CL14 memory running in dual channel. You can check the links in the description for details on all of the components as well as for up-to-date pricing. To get a rough idea of what sort of performance you can expect from MSI's RTX 2070 Super Gaming X graphics card, we'll take a look at results from a few games at 1080p, 1440p, and 4K resolutions. Testing was completed with all Windows updates to date applied and the latest Nvidia drivers. Battlefield 5 was tested in campaign mode with ultra settings. I've got the RTX off results shown by the purple bars and RTX on shown by the green bars, along with the 3 resolutions tested on the left, 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. With RTX off, I still found it playable at 4K. Otherwise, with RTX on, it was only somewhat playable at 1440p, but RTX on at 1080p did run fine, averaging above 60 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was tested with the built-in benchmark at ultra settings, and again the frame rates were decent at 1080p and 1440p, though a bit lower at 4K comparatively. However, keep in mind this is at max settings. Higher frame rates are of course possible at lower levels. Far Cry New Dawn was tested with the built-in benchmark at ultra settings. And as this is a CPU heavy test, the overclocked 8700K is definitely going to be helping out here. Regardless, even at 4K, we're only just below 60 FPS at max settings. Not bad at all, while 1440p was hitting above 100 FPS. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was tested with the built-in benchmark at max settings. This specific test seems to be more CPU heavy, and I don't think the game really needs a massive frame rate to play anyway. However, even maxed out, we're almost at 60 FPS at 1440p. Fortnite was tested with the replay feature, so the exact same test was done at each resolution with the highest epic settings in use. 4K was still just able to hit the 60 FPS sweet spot, though for a game like this, higher frame rates are typically beneficial, and 1440p still hit above 120 FPS even at max settings. Watch Dogs 2 was tested with ultra settings, and I can get by in this game with a stable 30 FPS. So even at 4K with max settings it was playable, however 1440p was noticeably better and able to average above 60 FPS. Ghost Recon Wildlands is another resource-heavy game and was tested with ultra settings using the built-in benchmark. Max settings in this game is pretty tough, though 1440p was still able to manage around 60 FPS, and 4K would be able to do this too if we step back just a couple of setting presets. CSGO was tested using the Euletical FPS benchmark at max settings, though this is more of a CPU-heavy game that people don't really play above 1080p, so I'll probably drop it unless that vocal minority keep asking for it. Rainbow Six Siege was tested with the built-in benchmark at ultra settings with a 100% render scale. We're seeing some decent frame rates in this test at max settings, so if you wanted to, 4K with lower settings should run pretty well too. The Witcher 3 was tested with ultra settings. and it was easily playable without any problems at 1080p and 1440p. 4K was okay for the most part, but I'd probably look at dropping down to high settings for a little higher frame rate. As we've seen, we're able to get some nice performance in the games tested. For the most part, both 1080p and 1440p resolutions were easily playable in these games, even at max settings. 4K was also scoring decent results in many of the games. However, I am testing with max settings here. It's definitely possible to get better results at lower settings. It would have been great to compare the results with a standard non-Super 2070, but I didn't have one available for testing. Steve at Hardware Unboxed found the 2070 Super to be 12% faster than the 2070 on average though. I suggest checking out his video if you want to see the differences. As for overclocking, I've tested out a few games to see what extra games could be had. I was able to overclock the GPU core by 110 MHz and memory by 1100 MHz using MSI Afterburner. However, these were by no means finely tuned settings. In Battlefield 5 at ultra settings, there was a nice boost with the GPU overclocks in place, shown by the red bars. At 1080p, overclocking gets us 9.3% higher average FPS, 10.2% higher at 1440p, and an 8.7% increase at 4K. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider at ultra settings with the built-in benchmark, there's a 4.8% boost to average FPS with the overclock in place at 1080p, 7% at 1440p, and 6.6% at 4K. So we could get some fair improvements with some simple tweaks. So we're seeing some decent performance, but what are the thermals like? These are the temperatures I measured with the Heaven benchmark in an ambient room temperature of 21 degrees Celsius. At idle, the temperatures were cool, especially considering that the fans don't even spin up until temperatures get above 60 degrees Celsius. By manually maxing out the fan speed with MSI Afterburner, it was possible to reduce the temperatures by almost 20 degrees Celsius. And my manual overclocks only raised GPU core temperature by 1 degree with the fans at stock. This was because the fan speed just got a little louder to compensate. With the fan at the same max speed though, the overclock raised temperatures by 3 degrees. Overall, I thought the thermals were quite good, thanks to the beefy cooler. Just for fun, I've used my thermal camera so you can see how the backplate looks with the stress tests running. It was quite hot to the touch. You'll definitely want to wait for it to cool down a bit before taking it out after use. I've got the average and peak clock speeds while running the Heaven benchmark for an extended period, and we can see the higher fan speed is resulting in slightly higher clock speeds, as GPU boost prefers cooler temperatures. These are the average and peak fan speeds measured under the same tests as the temperatures and clock speeds just shown. At idle, they don't spin at all, so it was silent. And then they only rise a small amount with the overclock applied. I couldn't really tell the difference sitting next to it. By maxing out the fan, it does get noticeably louder. However, this does at least mean there's plenty of headroom if you prefer to run cooler at the expense of additional noise. Here's what these different fan speeds sound like to give you an idea of what to expect. As I've got 7 other fans in the case, this isn't the best test. Plus I have the side of the case off. However, you can use the idle test as a baseline, as the graphics card fans weren't spinning at all here. I'll also note that while testing, I didn't notice any coil whine over the fans. Here's what total system power draw from the wall looked like with the same Heaven benchmark. So once manually overclocked, there's a 17 watt power increase. For up-to-date pricing, check the links in the description, as prices will change over time. The 2070 Super launched with an MSRP of $500 US, and at the time of recording, I don't have US prices for the Gaming X. MSI told me it won't be on sale until October. However, they did advise that here in Australia, we're looking at 939 Australian dollars, which would put it in between MSI's Ventus and Gaming X Trio as expected. As for whether or not it's worth it, I think I'll have to leave that for the comparison videos I'll be doing. I still need to get my hands on AMD's Navi to have a better idea of how the 2070 Super compares. There are cheaper 2070 Super cards available, even within MSI's own lineup such as the Ventus. For the most part, you're paying extra for the Gaming X for the better cooler, as more metal just costs more money to produce, and it comes with higher boost clock speeds out of the box. If you're willing though, in pretty much all cases, you can manually overclock this difference yourself. So I think it depends more on whether you want one with a better cooling solution. If not, it's definitely possible to save some money on a cheaper 2070 Super card. That said, this particular model did appear to have excellent cooling. and it doesn't even spin the fan up until it rises above 60 degrees. However, the larger heatsink put the card on the heavier side, which resulted in some sag when installed in my case. But you could reduce this with the included bracket. So what did you guys think of MSI's RTX 2070 Super Gaming X graphics card? As we've seen, it's easily capable of 1080p and 1440p gaming with higher settings, and even 4K in some instances. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and get subscribed for some upcoming comparisons and future tech videos like this one.